The future has not yet touched you, yet how often do you bleed from it already? You call it planning, preparation, responsibility. But beneath the surface, isn't it fear disguised as virtue? You imagine every possible loss. Ask yourself, how many nights have you lost to scenarios that never arrived? How many relationships have you smothered with suspicion because you could not tolerate not knowing? How many opportunities have you strangled in the cradle because certainty wasn't guaranteed? And how much of your exhaustion is not from what is, but from what you cannot bear not to know? You do not need tragedy to collapse you. Collapse in anticipation of it. You mistake vigilance for wisdom, but vigilance corrodes you. The question then presses, what would happen if you stopped rehearsing disaster? What if uncertainty was not the enemy, but the arena where life reveals itself? What if freedom does not come from knowing, but from daring to live without knowing? This is the paradox both Jung and Montaigne place before you. You suffer less. You live in an age obsessed with certainty. Forecasts, schedules, guarantees, endless data, all promising safety, none delivering peace. You check your phone for updates, plan, but has this made you freer or only more fragile? Ask yourself, when plans collapse, do you adapt or do you shatter? When life veers off script, do you meet it with curiosity or panic? How much of your energy is spent not living, but defending yourself against possibilities that might never arrive? Montaigne wrote, Jung extended the insight inward. Your refusal to face uncertainty becomes the shadow that rules you. The more you chase guarantees, the more brittle you become. The more you demand control, the more you call over-preparation responsibility. But is it really fear in disguise? You call constant vigilance wisdom, but is it merely anxiety dressed up as discipline? You call your obsession with answers clarity, but is it avoidance of the silence that terrifies you? The truth is harsher and more liberating. Life will. The question is not whether you can avoid them, but whether you can live without being ruled by their anticipation. Jung called individuation the art of wholeness. Montaigne called it learning how to die before you die. Both point to the same path. Embrace the unknown and you stop being undone by it. So ask yourself plainly, do you want control or do you want freedom? Because you cannot have both. And the moment you choose freedom, Jung's psychology offers a ruthless mirror your suffering. Under uncertainty is not caused by life's unpredictability, but by your refusal to face it. The unknown is not the enemy, your defenses against it are. Montaigne urged you to loosen your grip on certainty. Jung explains why your grip is strangling you. The persona, the mask of stability. You present yourself as capable, composed, always on top of things. You insist everything is fine when it isn't. Why? Because persona, the mask you wear for social survival, tells you that vulnerability is weakness. But beneath the mask, chaos brews. The more you identify with persona, the more you panic when life. Ask yourself how many of your strengths are just masks, and how much of your anxiety comes from fearing that the mask will slip. The shadow, the fear you refuse to admit. Uncertainty terrifies you because it reminds you of mortality, betrayal, rejection. These are the fears you bury, but what is buried rules from below. You attack others' unpredictability. Jung called this the shadow, the parts of yourself you exile only to meet them everywhere else. Ask, what fear are you projecting onto life? Is it really the world that is unstable, or your refusal to face your own fragility? Complexes, the old wounds that hijack you every disappointment. The unknown does not just unsettle you, it reactivates the unresolved. These knots or complexes hijack your reactions. You are not responding to the present, you are reliving the past. Ask how many of your breakdowns are not about today at all, but about wounds you never named yesterday. Projection, the power you hand away. When you cannot hold uncertainty within you, cast it onto. You call your boss chaotic when it is your own insecurity being stirred. Or worse, you project your disowned strength onto others, idolizing their confidence, their decisiveness, and then obeying them because how much of your fear of the unknown is really a refusal to claim your own authority? Who have you placed on a pedestal to carry the certainty you refuse to cultivate yourself? The self, the center that holds opposites. For Jung, freedom comes not from banishing fear, but from integrating it. The self, the wholeness beyond ego, does not demand certainty. To live from the self is to accept that uncertainty is not a flaw in life, it is its ground. From the self, you stop flinching at unpredictability because you are no longer fractured by it. You carry it without collapse. Ask, will you keep demanding guarantees, or will you grow a center that can withstand their absence? Jung and Montaigne converge here. Life's unpredictability is not what breaks you. The persona collapses. The shadow rules the complexes. Hijack the projections blind because you have not yet chosen wholeness over illusion. So ask yourself, are you still clinging to the mask of control? Are you still blaming life for not being predictable? Are you still handing your stability to others instead of cultivating your own? Until it becomes not enemy, but teacher. And in that posture, life becomes lighter, not because it is less uncertain, but because you are no longer undone by uncertainty itself. Look at your daily life, and you will see how uncertainty is not just an idea, but a constant test. Every sphere, love, work, health, relationships. Control masquerading as care. You say you love, but beneath it is fear. Fear they will betray you, abandon you, or change. So you monitor their moods, read their silences, demand. Ask, how many arguments have you started, not because of what happened, but because of what might happen? How much of your protection is really control dressed as care? And when you grip harder, do you not lose the very closeness you're desperate to preserve? Career, the obsession with guarantees. You believe you're being responsible, but isn't it fear hiding under the mask of diligence? You avoid applying for the new role until certainty is guaranteed, so you never apply at all. You dream of Ask how much of your ambition has been strangled by your need to predict the outcome. How many times have you confused paralysis with prudence? Health, catastrophe in the body. A headache is not just a headache. You spend hours searching symptoms, convinced knowledge will calm you. But does it not make you more anxious? You live in a body that you treat as enemy because you cannot bear its unpredictability. Ask yourself how much of your suffering is illness and how much is anticipation of illness. Are you living life or just rehearsing death? Future planning, anxiety. You think you are being wise, but are you actually absent from the present? You sacrifice joy now for the illusion of certainty later. Vacations become logistical marathons. Free time becomes productivity management. You say, I just want to be prepared, but how much of your preparation is just fear avoiding silence? Ask, do you live today, or do you only live in a projected tomorrow? You fill every gap with noise, scrolling distraction. Because in silence, the shadow of uncertainty rises. What if I fail? What if I am unlovable? What if I waste my life? So you flee the very space that could heal you. Ask, why do you dread stillness more than exhaustion? What are you afraid will emerge if you stop distracting yourself? These are not rare pathologies. They are your every. But underneath it is the wound of uncertainty pulling the strings. You avoid love to avoid betrayal, yet end up lonely. You over-prepare to avoid failure, yet never move. You obsess over health to avoid death, yet never truly live. Montaigne warned, fear makes you suffer before suffering arrives. Jung deepened it, what you resist rules you. Uncertainty does not break you. Your refusal to So ask yourself, with full honesty, in which area of your life are you still demanding guarantees? Where do you smother freedom in the name of safety? Where do you sacrifice presence on the altar of prediction? Until you see these patterns, you will keep calling them love, duty, or wisdom. But the truth is harsher. They are fear dressed in noble language. And the moment you admit it, the spell begins. Uncertainty does not wound you directly. It infiltrates through systems of body, mind, and behavior that you rarely notice. Montaigne warned, "Fear of suffering makes you suffer before it arrives." Jung exposed how your unconscious, left unexamined, takes those fears and builds them into laws. What feels like personality may only be machinery programs of defense running on autopilot. If you physiological, the body as alarm. Your chest tightens, your breath shortens, your stomach clenches. The body reacts to uncertainty as if a predator were in the room. But the danger is imagined, not real. You scroll through emails at midnight because your nervous system believes disaster hides in the inbox. You rehearse conversations, sweat over detail. Ask yourself how much of your exhaustion is caused not by reality, but by rehearsals of what might happen. How often is your body carrying wars that never came? Cognitive, the tyranny of stories. The mind cannot tolerate gaps, so it fills them with catastrophe. A delay in reply becomes rejection. A symptom becomes fatal. A silence becomes betrayal. The brain clings to story, even false story, because it feels safer than silence. Ask, when was the last time you let yourself live without an explanation? How many times have you mistaken imagination for fact? Emotional, anxiety masquerading as control. Fear rises when the unknown approaches, but instead of naming it as fear, you call it. You drown in vigilance, convinced it proves your wisdom. But does vigilance really protect you, or does it only poison every moment with dread? Behavioral compulsion as survival. You check, recheck, over-prepare. You text to confirm. You Google symptoms at 3 a.m. You map every scenario before acting. Each ritual gives brief relief but strengthens the chain. Compulsion pretends. Ask, are your routines rooted in freedom or in fear disguised as diligence? Which habits guard you and which enslave you? Relational, the burden placed on others. Your fear of uncertainty does not stay private. You demand reassurance from partners, stability from friends, guarantees from colleagues. You pull others. Ask yourself who in your life has been forced to carry your inability to face the unknown. How many of your requests are chains disguised as care? Ethical, the cost of living half alive. The deepest tragedy is not the wasted energy, but the wasted life. While you clutch at guarantees, the present slips by. Opportunities decay while you wait for certainty. Montaigne's warning pierces here by fearing tomorrow, you sacrifice today. Ask how many of your happiest moments were ruined because you couldn't stop asking what if. These mechanisms, physiological alarm, cognitive invention, emotional disguise, behavioral compulsion, relational burden, ethical erosion, form the machinery of your captivity. They operate quietly, invisibly, until you confuse them for identity itself. You say, but are you? Or are you simply ruled by a system you never chose? Jung would press harder. What you refuse to face in yourself will rule you So the question confronts you, will you keep rehearsing disasters that never arrive, obeying stories that never prove true, demanding certainties that life will never grant? Or will you begin the harder task of dismantling the machine until uncertainty no longer feels like terror but like truth? Because once awareness without practice collapses back into habit. You already know uncertainty is inescapable, yet your body, mind, and choices still betray you at the first tremor of not knowing. Montaigne's warning and Jung's depth psychology converge here. You cannot think your way out of fear. You must train your system to live differently. To embrace uncertainty, you need rituals, not theories. 1. Track. Is it waiting for a text reply, watching the stock market, waiting on medical results, or stepping into silence? Write them down. Your nervous system already knows the patterns. It tightens, rushes, or collapses. Ask, when do I feel compelled to fix what is not yet broken? When do I confuse vigilance with love? When do I turn the unknown into catastrophe? Naming. Pause. When uncertainty rises, you usually lunge toward checking, planning, explaining. Instead, insert one breath. Count to 5. Let the discomfort exist without reflex. This pause is not weakness, it is sovereignty reclaimed. Ask, can I tolerate the moment between not knowing and acting? Can I hold the silence without reclaim the shadow of fear? Your avoidance of uncertainty is really avoidance of shadow fear, of death, rejection, failure, betrayal. Instead of denying it, write it, speak it, confess it. I may fail, I may be abandoned, I may suffer. By naming it, you strip it of its tyranny. Ask, what do I most fear admitting to myself? What truth have I been running from? Once acknowledged, fear stops ruling from the dark. 4. Reframe uncertainty as the relationship might end, but it might also deepen. The project might collapse, but it might also transform you. The silence may not mean rejection, it may mean rest. Retrain your imagination. Not every unknown is disaster. Ask, what gift could emerge if I stopped assuming catastrophe? What freedom waits in the space I keep calling chaos? 5. Practice small surrenders. You don't have to let someone else choose the restaurant. Skip the compulsive weather check. Each act of surrender loosens your grip. Ask, which tiny places can I let go today just to prove that life continues even when I don't control it? 6. Ritualize stillness. Your flight from uncertainty is often your flight from silence. Set a daily practice. 5 minutes of sitting without distraction, journaling without agenda, or walking without head. But over time, stillness stops feeling like threat and becomes sanctuary. Ask, why do I dread stillness more than exhaustion? What part of me speaks only when I stop running? 7. Repair, where fear has spilled. Your avoidance of uncertainty has likely burdened others, partners, children, friends. Apologize. Correct. When you demand guarantees, you make others. Ask, who have I forced to steady me because I refused to steady myself? What would it mean to take back that weight? 8. Train daily sovereignty. Montaigne and Young agree, freedom is not the absence of uncertainty, but the refusal to collapse under it. Each day remind yourself, I do not need to know to live. Write it, speak it. Ask, am I living today or rehearsing tomorrow? Am I breathing or anticipating collapse? Each rehearsal strengthens the center. These practices are not luxuries, they are survival skills for a soul that refuses to be ruled by fear. You will never eliminate uncertainty, but you can train your body not to tremble at it. So ask yourself plainly, where will you begin? With one pause, one silence, one small surrender. Or will you keep serving the machine of fear until life itself passes you by? Embrace uncertainty, not because it disappears, but because it frees you. And in that freedom, life, fragile, fleeting, unpredictable, finally Montaigne warned that fearing suffering is itself suffering. Young revealed that what you resist in the unknown becomes the very shadow that governs you. The lesson is, merciless life will never give you the guarantees you crave. Yet, ask yourself now, how many hours of your life have been wasted rehearsing disasters that never arrived? How many relationships have you strained by demanding reassurance instead of offering presence? How many opportunities have you strangled because you refused to step forward without guarantees? And how much of your exhaustion comes not from reality, but from the endless defense, nor to outwit it with more control? The path is to embrace it as the condition of existence. To say, yes, I may lose, but I will love anyway. Yes, I may fail, but I will create anyway. Yes, I may die, but I will live fully until I do. This posture does not erase fear. It places fear in proportion. It does not eliminate chaos. It allows you to move within it without collapse. So the call to you is clear. Stop mistaking vigilance for wisdom. Begin with one small surrender, one pause, one honest breath in the face of the unknown. Because life is already uncertain. The only question left is whether you will keep resisting it or whether you will finally walk with it. When you embrace uncertainty, life does not become predictable. It becomes bearable, it becomes lighter, and at last, it becomes yours.